Motivations with Glenn.
Good day, everyone. This is Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU. You are tuned into Glenn Johnson's show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. We have an excellent and exciting topic of discussion for today, probably carrying on to next week, and maybe even a part 3 on U.S. currency. Changes to U.S. currency 2025 to present, and so on and so forth. And what I really like to focus on today is the elimination of the penny, and how was that going to affect our consumers, our families, and what have you. Because I'm thinking, in one document I know it says, when they discontinue the penny, which is already being considered or has already started, that they're going to round everything off to as near as 5 cents. And I'm like, well, if I pay for something, it only comes to 19 cents. I don't get a penny back because you're going to round it off to 5 cents, and I lose my penny. Well, I'm thinking, what if that happens to all Americans all over the nation? That penny would add up. So it's just not my penny, it's everybody's pennies, and how much, consumers could make off of keeping your penny. Here's Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
Hey, Dr. Glenn, and to our listening audience on today, we are glad to be here on today. It's a good day to be around on the land of the living. It's just a very, very nice day, and it is a very toasty and hot day outside today, Dr. Glenn. I was hot before I came in here, and I'm outside in the weather sometimes, and it was pretty warm to me today. I don't know about you, but hey, we're enjoying this sunshine that we out. We'd rather have sunshine than rain sometime, but I appreciate the rain when it comes. And I could have had a little rain today to cool it off today, Dr. Glenn.
Me too, because I cannot tolerate heat. The colder, the better it is for me. Anything over 50, I'm in the house, locked in and air conditioning.
Yes, I wish I could carry a portable one and just be walking around with it outside when I'm required to be outside. But hey, we're gonna say, we're gonna thank the Lord for this day. It's sunny, it's beautiful, and I hope you're out enjoying a little bit of this weather on today. We have a great show on today, and I'm so grateful for this topic that we're going to look at today, in Dr. Glenn. And as Dr. Glenn was talking about the possibility of the penny going away, there has been talk, in the past of getting rid of all change. And we also hear, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that at certain times about there being digital currency. I've seen a few things, Dr. Glenn, of people that have gotten they work at certain places and they've gotten chips put in their hand, and they use it at that particular job, their paycheck is loaded on there. There are some in some countries, and now I don't know that this is in the U.S. like that, but I've seen it in other countries where their particular paycheck was being loaded on that, and that's how they paid for things, that there was even a scanner, at the grocery store that they scanned their hands with, and it paid for their items. I'm
Right.
not ready for such a thing. I don't want to be chipped too.
And I just don't like the idea about digital currency anyway. We're already having a problem now with hackers and people's account getting compromised with regular currency. Can you imagine digital currency? That just opens the door for all these hackers to just steal everybody's money.
It opens the door for hackers, but it also is a place of control. And I wasn't going to go in deep, and I wasn't going to mention this, but because the door is open concerning it, we know that at some point, according to the Bible or the Word of God, that the earth is going to go into a one world money system where everybody's going to have the same currency. And that's what I see, those particular things that we're seeing where people are passing their hand and they're getting chipped in their hand in different places to use it as currency. The Bible says that they'll have a mark in their hand or either their forehead. And I see that as being one of the precursors for that particular thing in Scripture.
And I'm glad you said that because I would like to see a one currency for the entire world because I am so getting aggravated trying to figure out British currency, UK currency. A pound, they go by pound, but then you also use pence, which is with cents. But the one that really gets me, that I'm really confused about, is a quid. What in the world is a quid? I hear people, I just paid £5 for that. What is a quid?
Well, and that is definitely, it. In other countries, the money is called different things, and then the value of the dollar is different in those countries.
Yeah, like in some places in Europe, they use euro.
Euro, yes. And some of the money, it was called finnings. I remember, Dr. Glenn, I lived in Europe for 4 years. So I did get a chance to see the exchange rate and how that particular thing worked with the U.S. money, and you had to exchange it, for their money.
Yeah.
And, the value of the U.S. dollar was high. But what I'm hearing now, that in a lot of places, the value of the dollar is not as high.
Yeah, no,
but
that's
there
right.
are some places where it's still very high.
Yeah, I heard that. And what is a shilling? Shilling or chilling?
A shilling, I think.
Shilling.
I think a shilling used to be something in the U.S. though, wasn't it? Wasn't that like the English money or something?
I think it was English,
Yeah,
yeah.
those old books, I think they would talk about having a shilling, or in the Bible too, I think. We'll have to look it up, Dr. Glenn. We'll look up and come back with the shilling. I think that is also a biblical term.
Yeah, because I know we have a lot in front of us today. That's why I said this is probably part one. We'll probably have a part two. I'm pretty sure we'll have a part two. Maybe and possibly a part three because I also have documents on, that'll probably be next week, on U.S. currency and what the symbols mean, particularly the all seeing eye that's on the money
Oh,
and the
yeah.
pyramid.
Oh, yeah.
There's
And
some,
Dr. Glenn, those are very interesting facts.
yeah, there's some real significance about the pyramid itself.
And we'll also I guess by the time our viewers are done listening to that, they're going to be able to spot a fake bill when they see one after we're
Yeah.
done giving them those facts, huh?
I definitely want to get into the part where we're printed on the U.S. currency and God we trust. When government is a separation between church and state, but there's a reason why and God we trust is on U.S. currency,
Well, and it used to be too that this nation was founded upon God.
and that's why.
That when back in the time of England and those times, when they came over to what is now is the U.S., they were a lot of Christian groups and Puritans and different pilgrims and different things that lived here in the U.S. and brought religion here. So the U.S. was founded upon God back then.
Yeah, and I think it's mentioned something to that effect that you just mentioned. But we'll get to that if we won't get to today. Definitely next week. We get to other parts of U.S. currency, and I particularly also want to talk about Rule 72. Rule 72 is a rule by the IRS. It was designed to help people save money, put money away. So your compound interest, if you was to put $10,000 away over maybe a 20, 30-year period, it could grow to $100,000 or something to that effect. I'm just giving a roundabout figure, but it's probably more or less. But Rule 72 is basically compound interest, help you grow money, save money. So if you had a child, you would put $10,000 away today. What would that amount be in 30 years? That's where the Rule 72 comes in.
Okay, talking about the interest rate and
Yeah,
how
the
interest can grow.
compound interest, yeah.
Yeah, I know some people that were in the military and they had certain things that they had bought in the military, thinking that when they retired, they were going to have all this money. And when they retired, they didn't have what they thought. Dr. Glenn, we're getting ready to go out on our first break. And we want our caller, we want you today, if you want to call in and have something to say on our show today, you can call in. And the phone number here in the studio is 252-756-2008. Again, the phone number is 252-756-2008. You can call in. There's a lot of things about money and some things that you may know that we may not even know. Call in and have something to say on our show today because we all use money. Dr. Glenn?
That's absolutely correct. So if you don't get a chance to call in today, phone your neighbors, wake your friends. You'll have a chance to call in today, next week, and a week after, because I know this is not going to be the only part, because this is a very huge topic, and I think everybody needs to share this information. Back in a moment.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Celebrating Juneteenth, Wednesday, June 18th, from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at 252 Main Street, Winterville. It's Market on the Square in Winterville. Vendors, food trucks, games, music. Help Winterville celebrate Juneteenth on Wednesday, June 18th, 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at 252 Main Street, Winterville. Visit the Winterville Chamber at wintervillechamber.com/MOTS. Market on the Square. We're going to have a great time at the Juneteenth celebration Wednesday, June 18th at 252 Main Street from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Winterville. A slice of the good life.
Hi, my name is Tracy. Thank you for listening to Awesome Radio 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. Before I continue with the topic and give it back over to Apostle, I just want to make mention about the spot that just went off about the Winterville Juneteenth. I live practically down the street from Market on the Square. I will be on Juneteenth with my African attire on because, as the spot said, there's some food vendors, and I know a couple of them, and they have some dynamite food. And I can't wait for June 18th. I will be at Market on the Square, ladies and gentlemen, Lord willing.
It's June 18th, Dr. Glenn?
June 18th, that is correct.
Yeah, I might come out there and check it out, but I'm not wearing any African attire.
Yeah, I just thought about that too because a lot of African attire I have is black in color, and it's going to be hot. Because June, Market on the Square, there's an awful lot of sunlight. And like I said before, I cannot tolerate the heat, especially bright sun. So I might have to put on all white.
Well, and Dr. Glenn, you're talking about some good food. Now you got my interest up. I may have to go out there and see what they have.
I was going to mention two names, but I can't legally do that on the air. Mention the name, so you'll just have to come out there.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we'll look at these things. When I lived in another city, I used to go to those particular events, and I mean, they were some huge, nice events too, with fashion shows and all kinds of things that were happening out of there. Local entertainment and talent. So I'm hoping that I see some of those particular things out there. Somebody's
I'm pretty sure you will because
singing in the choir or bring something out there.
Yeah, that June 18th, Winterville Market on the Square is June 18th. The day before Juneteenth. So that's why they have it on the 18th, because Juneteenth is the 19th.
Oh, yeah. So, Dr. Glenn, let's get back to our subject, moving back to our subject here. As we were talking about money, I wanted to say this because this came to my mind as I was sitting here with my sticky notes, as Dr. Glenn says. I'm over here with my sticky notes and I wrote something down. I thought about this, and this is something that maybe a lot of us have experienced. And before we get into the depth or a little bit more meat of the show on our particular forms that we have here, I have been certain places, Dr. Glenn, and looked and thought I was picking up $100 bill. And I mean, it just got me not long ago. Everybody recognizes when we look down and we think we see some money or we think we see a dollar. And all of us, if you tell the truth, you probably have found money out at some time, out on the street. I found money. One time in my backyard, it was right up blowing from somebody else's house, and it was right up against my fence in the backyard. So I went over there picking up leaves, and there was some money. So I don't know whose money had blown over to my yard, but it was
Yeah.
definitely there.
Because that can happen. I walked out of my house one day. I was a teenager. Walked out of my house, walked down the steps of the front steps of the porch. As soon as I got on the sidewalk, my neighbor was a police captain. His fence line, it was a sprawl with $20 bills. Here I am, like 14 years old, I think. It had to be over $300 or $400 in 20s. I just put it in my pocket, went back in the house and laid it on my bed because it was right next door to my house. Also, I want to mention, I had an uncle that lived in Atlantic City. He lived one block from the Taj Mahal, actually a couple blocks from the Taj Mahal, but you could see the Taj Mahal from his house. He walked out to the Taj Mahal every day and just walk around, browse around on the casino floor, just picking up chips, $50 chips, $100 chips that people might have just dropped. But it's legally yours if you pick it up because nobody's around to claim it. You just take it to the cashier's window, cash it in. He would make about $300 or $400 a day.
Wow, Dr. Glenn, I didn't know, and that's a good rule to know that if you find money, you can keep it. I was at the bank, literally at the bank one time, and going through the drive-through, and $100 bill just blew over right on top of my windshield wiper. And so I looked, I was like, I'm at the bank, what's going on? But I went and I got out, and of course I did get out and get it. I grabbed it and everything, and I did go in. I called the bank. I took it and I called the bank because I'm at the bank. I know that somebody's money blew away
Right, that's a good
right
thing,
there.
yeah.
And so I went and called the bank and told them that I had, found some money. I didn't tell them how much. And I left a number that if somebody had lost this money to call me. And I remembered the temptation, Dr. Glenn, that was there. I could have used a new suit, new outfit. And I all these things came to mind, for that $100 bill. And my children were young, and I remember that the bank called me and told me a lady said she was missing a $100 bill, that this was her babysitting money. And I did. I went down there and turned that $100 in. I didn't want to cause somebody to be in distress over something that wasn't mine.
Exactly. She did call. She was able to retrieve it from you, so that's a little bit different. That's like I was in Philadelphia one time driving down the street. Lady had just walked out the credit union, had a lot of money on hand without having it in an envelope. I'm talking about 50s, 100s, 20s, everything. All just blew out of her all the way down the street. I slammed on the brakes of my car, jumped out of the car, and helped her to retrieve the money.
Wow. Well, what about Dr. Glenn, and this, you being a ex-officer or working in those type of fields, I've seen certain videos where, the money truck, from certain places that pick up money, and the money was blowing out of the back of the truck on the expressway.
Armored car.
Armored car.
That has happened so many times in the United States, it is beyond belief.
So is it against the law to get that money if it's an armored car truck? I mean, you didn't steal that money. It blew out.
Yeah, but you have to help them pick it up and put it back. Legally, you can't keep it.
Legally, we can't keep it. Okay, so
especially if it's marked. You're going to get in a lot of trouble with marked money.
Well, all money's marked, isn't it? It all has a number on it.
Well, yeah, I don't have a serial number, but what they mean by marked is marked for a specific location or for purpose.
My pocket, if it flew out and came to me, that's where it's marked for.
No. Oh, you don't want to get the bag with the dye in it. Then the dye explode. Now you walking around blue.
Oh my goodness! I'm not gonna be blue if I have the money. Okay, I'm gonna be happy.
It might be orange dye. You don't appear to be orange to me.
Oh yeah, well I can see that. Nobody wants to be a victim of that because that would be victimizing
Well,
me.
be honest and truthful. It all depends on the circumstances, but even as an armored car that might have flipped over or the door became ajar, opened up in the back, all the money fell out. You are legally responsible to help retrieve it and give it back.
Well, one thing I'm just gonna say this, Dr. Glenn, I might not take the money, but I'm not obligated to help them pick it up either. I will watch them and pray for them, but
You're not obligated, but it does make a civil person out of you if you was to stop and help.
Yes. Yes.
You'll be
And
a civil.
I could see that. But I see it out on the expressway. I think I'm just gonna drive by, and keep it moving.
Listen, if I see it out on the expressway too, I don't even know if I'm going to stop. Cars are at breakneck speed coming down the expressway. So I don't even think I would stop on the expressway to even get out, considering, notwithstanding all the money being there, because you can put yourself in extreme danger.
Yes, and Dr. Glenn, I mean, it has opened up a whole bunch of interesting questions in my mind. We may save a couple for next on our next show because you said we'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
But it leads me because I believe that I've heard that if you rob a bank and you get away with the money for a certain amount of time, you could keep the money. Like 7 years, like if you hid the money.
Well, 7 years is like the normal statute of limitations for stuff, but some cases, depending on the denomination, the amount, there might not be a statute of limitation. You might not be able to keep it
Ever.
because that money belongs to somebody.
Wow, Dr. Glenn. That is something. I always heard that you could keep it after a certain amount. Will you call in any of our callers if you want to call in? Because I know I'm not the only one that heard that. I thought it was like if you kept it for 7 years, you could keep the money.
Well, I want you to do your investigative journalism on that. We'll make that part of part 2.
Okay, and also if you find money, what should happen? I'm not talking about outside of like the hundreds. Hey, call in today. You guys are still welcome to call in. That phone number is 252-756-2008, and you can have something to say with us on the air. We're getting ready to go out for another break, and we want you to hang on to the edge of your seats and come back. We have some more interesting things, and we're going to bring those things next week, Dr. Glenn. We're going to talk about it. This is Dr. Glenn's show. This is Awesome Radio. Right back in a moment.
I am Miss Mary Cox. I'm Killer Pigpen's mother from Awesome Radio.
Does a nurse have the right to pray with her patients? Stay tuned.
Today's legal case is from the files of the Christian Law Association. Here's attorney David Gibbs Jr.
Nurse Emily prayed quietly for her patients as she cared for them. A few expressed discomfort with her practice, leading her supervisor to issue a formal warning. Emily contacted the Christian Law Association, and our attorneys explained her legal rights and mediated a solution. Emily adjusted her approach by offering to pray with patients only if they requested it, and many did. Continuing her faith practice while respecting patients' wishes is an important part of religious liberty. Emily has every right to pray with sick patients, but she cannot do it if they do not wish for her to. Thankfully, almost all her patients said, "We want her to pray."
The Legal Alert website is loaded up with great tools to help you. We've posted a huge assortment of legal brochures you can download, case updates, along with a comprehensive publication catalog. Why not take full advantage of these free resources right now at christianlaw.org. That's christianlaw.org. And if you'd like to speak with an attorney, our legal missionaries are standing by at 888-252-1969.
Reflecting, celebrating, and moving forward. Youth Incarceration Prevention Ministry celebrating 10 years of youth community service. Bad company and the streets is not the way. Come learn a better way on Saturday, June 7th, 12 o'clock noon at St. John Missionary Baptist Church, Soul Saving Center, 2921 Briary Swamp Road, Stokes. Host Pastor Gregory V. Black. This event is free. Come hear the keynote speaker, Paula Dance, Pitt County Sheriff, as she shares programs and real-life scenarios live at the Youth Detention Center. That's Saturday, June 7th, 12 o'clock. The founders of Youth Incarceration Prevention Ministry, Eddie Golly and his wife, Ann Golly. There will be food trucks, vendors, gift card giveaways, and classes for ages 3 to 8. This event is free to the community. We're calling all youth in your community, this community, that community, all communities. It's the Youth Incarceration Prevention Ministry, June 7th, 12 o'clock noon at St. John Missionary Baptist Church, Soul Saving Center, 2921 Briary Swamp Road, Stokes. For more information, contact Eddie, 252-341-7546. Brenda, 252-717-0097. Or Evelyn, 252-253-9520. We're celebrating 10 years of the Youth Incarceration Prevention Ministry. June 7th, 12 noon at St. John Missionary Baptist Church, Soul Saving Center, 2921 Briary Swamp Road, Stokes. This event is free to the community.
We're back. You're listening to The Glenn Johnson Show. You can reach Glenn at glennjohnsonshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn. We are actually at our final 30 minutes of today's broadcast, so I'm going to confer with Apostle to ask her if we want to continue with the documents I have on the discontinuation of the penny and some other documents. But I would like to play 2 3-minute audio clips before we get to these documents. Apostle.
Dr. Glenn?
Okay, we'll get to those. We'll get to those audio clips right now. I'm sorry about that. Jackie, kids.
Yes. Dr. Glenn, what I was saying when I talked about everybody finding money is I was saying that sometimes you go and pick up those little fake bills and it's a gospel tract leading people to Jesus Christ. You know, you open it, it looks just like real money, like a folded piece of money, and you pick it up and on it is, you know, the plan of salvation or some question that is tasking you to know Jesus Christ as your Savior.
That's right. I like to always share this story with people. Comedian Kevin Hart, he was just starting out, needed money to pay his rent. So he wrote his mom a letter. And his mom wrote back, "Son, didn't I tell you to pick up the Bible?" He wouldn't pick up the Bible because he was apprehensive. Mom was always telling him to pick up the Bible. Read the Bible. So he didn't want to read the Bible. I don't know if I'm going to read that Bible. She always said, "Son, I told you to read the Bible." So he either called her or wrote her another letter. And I think he called her. While on the phone, she said, "Well, son, didn't I tell you to pick up that Bible?" So he finally picked the Bible up. Lo and behold, his mom had placed in the Bible about 9 checks to pay his rent for a little while. So he didn't have to worry about paying the rent for almost 9 months. She said, "I told you to read the Bible." He was thinking she wanted him to read scriptures. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't reading the scriptures. When he found that money, now he started reading the Bible and started reading all the scriptures.
Oh, yeah, that's a great story there, a great thing. He should have just read the Bible, picked up the Bible.
Well, now he does. Let's get to these 2 audio clips before we get to the document. I do want to share some more on the penny, in particular, Jack Apostle. The one that says, "Penny's going away soon. Here's what Ohioans can do with them," to source Cincinnati.com.
Yes.
So Cincinnati, Ohio.
Now, the president took to social media to say he thinks we should also stop minting new pennies, calling the 1-cent coin wasteful. Well, the president cited the cost of making a penny and that it doesn't make much financial sense. Get it? All right, you can see that 1-cent coin costs more than 3 cents to make. Lawmakers have been proclaiming that the penny is not needed and wasteful for a while now. In fact, President Obama tried to get and stop the penny and the nickel from being made.
Periodically, people have, proposed bills or, had, different initiatives to try and phase out the penny. There are a good deal of pennies in circulation, but we don't really use them in vending machines or anything like that these days.
Can the president say, "Hey, I need you to stop production of this"? Is it something within his power to be able to do that?
I mean, I don't know what kind of court challenges there would be to it, but when we think about these things, there are legal standards and then there are also, just rules of thumb that the president tends to be strongest when he has the backing of Congress through legislation. When Congress hasn't spoken, he's sort of in an intermediate amount of power, right? So, you know, he may be able to do something as long as Congress doesn't oppose it.
Well, the U.S. Mint reported losing 85.3 million in the 2024 fiscal year. I had my things wrong there. 3.2 billion pennies were produced when they lost all that money. You know, a nickel, which buys you 5 cents of something, costs about 14 cents to make. Then I got kind of curious about how much the dollars are to make. The least expensive to make. All right, we're going to show it to you. Let's come on up. $1 and $2 bills cost 3.2 cents to make. The $100 bill, which is all the way at the bottom, costs 9.4 cents to make.
Okay, I'm going to pause that video right there. Audio, sorry. Right there, because I want to go to an audio clip on Why Does Money Say In God We Trust before we continue with our documents before the broadcast ends today.
If you've ever looked for a few seconds at a U.S. coin, you might have noticed a strange phrase on one of the sides. It's the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, and it's on every coin in U.S. currency. It means out of many, one, or one out of many. But what do the designers of our money mean when they use this Latin phrase? Out of many, one what? The oldest version of money still in existence today. Coins come in all different shapes and sizes, coming from all different cultures. But in the United States, all coins are ring-shaped. Now there are 4 consistent markings across every U.S. minted coin. After e pluribus unum, the United States of America, in God we trust, and liberty. In God we trust, the United States of America, liberty, and out of many, the chosen one. Now, why are these phrases collectively so important that they're printed on every minted coin without exception? Many people will and do read these statements as an indication that the United States of America is the chosen one out of many, perhaps the chosen nation. While a fair conclusion, this is not the reason that bankers, Federal Reserve Board members, and every other entity that has gone into the design and dissemination of U.S. currency imprinted these phrases. The reason for all this, as strange as it might sound, stems from the planet and ancient god Saturn.
Okay, I'm going to pause that one as well because we want to get to some more of these documents and bring you a little bit more information. If possible, if you're ready with the pennies are going away soon, here's what Ohioans can do with them, because I see a couple of interesting facts.
Oh, yes, Dr. Glenn. It says
pennies going away.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, sorry, I keep dropping off the stream, Dr. Glenn.
Yeah, I saw that.
It says soon, pennies are going away soon. Here's what Ohioans can do with them. Now source, Cincinnati.com, The Inquirer. It says, soon be rounded up or down to the nearest nickel, according to USA Today. Pennies are going away. Here's what's happening next and what Ohioans can do with the ones they have. It says, why are pennies going away? Can pennies still be used after the production stops? And then it says President Trump called the production of pennies wasteful and posted to his Truth Social platform that he instructed Treasury Department head Scott Bessent to stop production because the cost to make pennies exceeded its face value, which is really, why would you make something that costs more to make it than the value of the penny?
Exactly.
But that has always been the case, it looks like. This is not something that just happened.
I think it always has been the case.
Then why did it take them so long to try to get rid of the penny? And maybe just traditionally, they didn't want to let it go.
Yeah, they didn't.
And now they're going to get rid of the penny. But I don't have a problem with them getting rid of the penny, but all currency and everything that adds up needs to not equal to 1 cent over, so that they can round it up, and get it to the nearest 5 cent or round it down.
But if you heard an audio clip, they even want to get rid of the 5 cent So how you gonna round it off to the nearest 5 cent? It's not gonna be a 5 cent either. But if you look, continue to look, we have 45 seconds. We'll have to get back to it when we come back from the break. But it's just even your extra loose change still has value. We'll touch on that after this next break because we got 30 seconds before the break.
Yes, you caller, you can call in. We still have a few minutes left, and you are able to call in at 252-756-2008. Call in and be live with us on the air, and we would love to have you and see your opinion about the penny going away and how they're trying to rob us of the 4 cent that we might have by rounding things up to the nearest nickel.
And after this next break, we're not going to get to telling you too many stories. We're just going to stick to the documents until we have a good ending of the broadcast. Back in a moment.
Keep it locked right here to the Glenn Johnson Show.
This is Global Perspective.
At the end of his famous Sermon on the Mount, Jesus made a powerful statement. He said, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." He then said, "But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand." In America, we have access to the Word of God, Christian radio, churches, and other ministries that enable us to be well-versed in God's Word, so we can be those wise men and women who build our houses on the rock. Let's be careful to do that. And as we do, let's pray for those in places like Africa, where millions are still waiting to have access to the Word of God in their own language so they can have the chance to know God and live according to His Word.
Global Perspective is brought to you by New Life Africa Networks. For more information, go to globalradio.us.
I am Miss Mary Cox. I'm Killer Thigpen's mother from Awesome Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Williams. We have reached our final 20 minutes of today's broadcast. As Apostle has indicated throughout the broadcast, you can still call in within these next 20 minutes. We would love to hear what you have to say about our current money situation and the discontinuation of the penny and whatever other information you would like to share. So this is our final 20 minutes. If you have anything you would like to share, please don't hesitate to call in 252-756-20. I'm sorry, I'll probably give up my number. 252-756-2008. Also, we want to just try to stick to the documents with these 20 minutes because we don't want to share too many just stories. We want to get to the remainder of the documents that we have for you today. Apostle.
Yes, Dr. Glenn. And as you said that, I had another story come to my mind. I'm not going to say it because Dr. Glenn said we're going to stick to the documents. I'll tell you next week, and we'll look at it. It said, retiring coins, where does it end? While Trump has only instructed the Mint to stop making pennies, some voices have urged Americans to stop using them. And it also said here, so you want to get rid of the penny? The New York Times mused in recent headlines, do you have a plan for the nickel? And then it says here, as it turns out, nixing the penny creates new problems. If America rids itself of pennies, the Times reported the nation will soon find itself flooded with nickels. Yeah, if you're not going to get rid of the penny and the nickel is going to be what you round up to, that's where you're going to need more change, you know. And I mean, I cannot say that I do not agree with, I agree with getting rid of something that costs more to make than the value of it, the penny. But this solution of rounding up to the next nickel, we're going to have to make sure that everything is at a nickel, that the least value of everything is a nickel. You know, that if it's $1 and something, that is 105 and not 101. Right. You know, how are we going to stop math from mathing, Dr. Glenn?
But what I'm concerned about, who's going to make out on the long run? Not the consumer. What about the retailer? The retailer will make out like a fat rat at the cheese factory.
Oh yeah, if they're getting 4 cents on and something that you only could cost a penny, it's $1.01. And now everything has to be rounded up. They're going to be getting over 4 cents on everything, you know, just out of anything that you buy. Well, I might have to start going into business, Dr. Glenn.
Well, I think if they do, and retailers do make out on the long run, I think that's where the government gonna step in and say, look, we're gonna have to raise your taxes because you're making an astronomical amount of money. I'm figuring that might happen.
Oh, yes.
I'm not just putting it out there. I'm just thinking that.
Also, Dr. Glenn, it says here, it said that you need to look at your pennies and see what year are on those pennies.
Yeah, I saw that. Because although they might get rid of the penny, it might be valuable at auction or collectible. Because the year on the penny, it might have been struck with an imperfection. A lot of coins have imperfections that makes it more valuable.
And that's what it says. Rare pennies could be worth millions. And already, certain pennies certain years, as Dr. Glenn said, I've seen some of them be like $3. The one penny is worth $3. You just have to look up and see what year and know what year is valuable.
And I always tell people this about, a lot of people don't know if you have a coin that has a letter C on it, on the back of it, that means the coin was struck in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte had a mint back in the 1800s. Although the mint is no longer in operation, the building is still there in Charlotte, which was a Charlotte Mint with the U.S. Treasury. But now it's a museum.
Oh, wow, Dr. Glenn. I didn't know that coins were minted in Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte was one of them. Of course, Philadelphia. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Louisiana. And somebody told me another one to start with a D. I'm not sure if it's Denver or not. But there was only certain mints that struck coins, Philadelphia being one, and Charlotte. And if you've had a coin with a letter C on it, it is extremely valuable.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you said that, Dr. Glenn, because now I'm going to start looking. I tend to throw pennies and not pick up pennies because it just takes so many to make anything. So I don't have the time for it.
No, since I'm in North Carolina, when I heard about that letter C, every time I went to the store, I would stop to make sure there wasn't a letter C on the back of a coin that they gave me.
Well, now I'm doing it now, Dr. Glenn. I'm no longer going to take the pennies for granted and just discard them. I'm going to be looking for the letter C and looking at the dates. I mean, sometimes people don't realize that they could be holding in their hands something that's very valuable.
And I said we weren't going to tell any more stories, but I would share this one. Since we talking about the letter C, a guy worked into a pawn shop in Vegas. He had a gold coin with a letter C on it. He didn't know nothing about the coin, neither did the shop owner. So they had to call an appraiser. An appraiser got to the pawn shop. He looked up the coin. He said, well, first of all, I see the letter C on it. So everybody responded by saying, yeah, what is that? What is that letter C for? The appraiser told him that means it was struck in Charlotte, North Carolina. So he said, well, after you appraise the coin, can you tell me what the value is? He said, well, sir, this particular coin, its condition, the year on it, I think it's valued way over $18,000.
Wow. And then imagine people, how I was going to say older people, but that means all of us, huh? How they can take little jars and have little money, that they left there and just may have been filling it up and they abandoned it, or, maybe they even passed away and left it. And it could be sitting there with valuable coins in it. You don't know how long they have kept those pennies.
Exactly.
My mother, she had a sack of pennies, before she passed. I looked them up. Oh, we got a caller.
Ladies and gentlemen. Caller, you're alive on the air on the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
Yes. I'm calling in. You talking about corn, the penny. I found a penny the other day from 1935. Should I hold on to it or just not worry about it?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand what you said. Did you understand, Jackie?
Yes. She said that she found a penny from 1935. That sounds like a very old year.
A rare coin, yeah.
Yes, I would hold on to that and just look it up. Get on that Google and Google the value of the coin from 1935 and just look at it from several places and see how much the value of it is. You know, I know some of
Okay.
them are worth a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't trust it to be in anybody's hand as you're getting it checked out or appraised. You want to go to somebody reputable that can appraise the coin for its true value and not leave you hanging. You don't want to put yourself in a compromised position. So be extremely careful as to who you approach with the coin, and just don't let nobody hold the coin in their physical hand. You keep the coin in your hand, and if they do appraise it, they've probably been going wearing white gloves, have it on a counter on some kind of thing where it won't get damaged to protect the coin. But I want you to be extremely careful.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. Thank you, caller. Jackie, we have 1 minute to go before the break.
Hey, thank you so much, caller, for calling in and asking us. Now, I just want to say that we're not professionals over here. Dr. Glenn and I don't know how to appraise anything, but we can give you some good advice and tell you to look it up and tell you where to look it up. And also, you know, not to be, you know, callous with something that may be worth something. You know, there are ways to find out. And as Dr. Glenn said, you know, don't just take anybody's, you know, sometimes people, they want to get over it. Well, it's not worth nothing, but give it to me. Well, why do you want it if it's not worth anything? You know, because sometimes people, they're not all honest. So definitely look that thing up. And look, you got me interested, caller. When I get off, I'm going to look it up for you. And next week, we'll see if the caller has anything. And so, you know, we thank you so much for calling in. And we want to say to anybody else today, we have a few more minutes. You are welcome to call in. This is the Glenn Johnson Show right here on Awesome Radio. We need you to come right back with us, back in a moment.
My name is Jayla, and you're to see to my papa, Glenn Johnson, on the radio.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. We are Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU. This is our final 10 minutes of the broadcast. So I just want to give a personal thank you to the caller that called. And Jackie is going to do some research on her own. And we'll get back to the caller when we do part 2 next week. Perhaps we can have that caller call in next week. Apostle.
Yes, Dr. Glenn, we are right back here with a few more things. I'm glad that the caller called in, as you said, and hopefully next week we'll get some lined up to tell us about some, and especially those of you that are listening to us, if you had a penny or a piece of coin or money that you sold or you acquired and you knew that those things were valuable, call in and tell us about it so we can hear about it live on the air. Dr. Glenn?
I just thought about this also. So that particular year, it might have been, I think it was before the war. But if you have a penny that was perhaps during the war, the penny could consist of copper and another metal because they had to save on copper for ammunition. So that's another way to get a coin appraised to see if it had multiple metals instead of one. And if it does, it's even more valuable. And it sounds like 1938, she might just have a coin that was a mixture of copper with another metal.
Oh, yes. And I see one of our commenters saying that they're going to go and look at their pennies right now. Hey, everybody, let's look at those pennies. And I want to say this to you. You know, if you have something valuable and this show sparked you to go and find out how much that money was, how much that penny is, and it's worth a lot of money, hey, there's no problem in sharing that wealth. Dr. Glenn?
I do want to share this. I think the gentleman was in Mississippi. He would never, ever walk past a penny. He didn't care what anybody thought about him. You know, they was in the deep South, Mississippi, so they weren't concerned about what people thought. They just wanted to survive and live. So he was in Mississippi, would never walk past a penny. Always would stop and pick up a penny. From him doing that and from saving change that he got from his store when he bought stuff, he had so many coins in his house, the insurance company would no longer insure him at his house. So he had to go cash them in. When he went to cash in all those coins, the figure came to $89,000.
Wow, I can imagine that he and $89,000 worth of pennies or coins. He probably has some very valuable things in there that he missed.
Here's the thing, and I'm glad you got people listening on your Facebook page. Here's the thing. People that knew about metal, they approached him and said, look, had not he taken them to the bank and just turned them in for scrap metal, it would have been worth more, because then scrap metal was more valuable than the face of a penny.
Wow, that is something to think about because they were made of copper back then.
Yeah, copper.
Yeah, they're no longer made of copper now. They're made of something else, right?
It could be a form of copper, and I can't think what the other metal is, but it might be two metals involved.
Yeah, but I definitely know that the older pennies are heavier than the new pennies. The new pennies are light. Some of them are very light.
And depending on what's struck on the penny also.
Definitely, Dr. Glenn.
I don't have any coins on me to see what actually struck on a penny.
Well, and Dr. Glenn, you know, I'm just be honest with you, I don't mess with change like that no more. I mean, we're talking about going to digital currency, and a lot of times, you know, I mean, we just use our card, our debit card, or bank card, or whatever card we have, and don't even worry about the change. I mean, I had some money, some, you know, paper money last week, and I thought, I don't never have no paper money. I threw it in something and forgot I had the money. You know, sometimes that's what I do with cash because I'm so used to using my card. I've stuck it down in the wallet. Don't even know it's in there.
I do have a penny on me, and I forgot the face is the face Lincoln on the penny, but on the back it says 1 cent over a shield, and that shield actually represents something. That's we want to get into symbols and stuff that's on U.S. currency. I know that shield is worth something, and on some of the pennies, it could have a different marking. It could have been struck with something other than a shield.
Oh yes, it's the wheat pennies. It says, what are wheat
That's
pennies
right, the
worth?
wheat penny, yeah.
It says they get their name from the back of the coin having stalks of wheat encircling the 1 cent text. They were produced from 1909 to 1958. After that, pennies began displaying an engraving of the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, the Lincoln Memorial, yeah. Does it say anything about the shield? You said it's got a shield on it?
No, Dr. Glenn, I don't see. I just see the one with the wheat stalks.
Okay, yeah, I got a shield. Look like a Captain America shield.
Well, you know, to definitely look at the ones with the wheat on it. That's the ones that may be worth something.
Yeah, the ones with the wheat may be worth more.
Now, it said in rare cases, some 1943 pennies have sold for $1 million.
That's right.
While one went for more than 200,000 at an auction in 2019.
And that was a what, 1940 something penny?
The 1943.
1943.
Sold for $1 million.
And our caller has a penny, 1935, did she say? That might be even worth more.
Oh yeah. That's definitely before the 1943.
Yeah.
1930. Yes. Definitely to our caller. I'm sure that's interesting.
Yeah.
It might be something to have a penny from 1935. I don't even think
Yeah.
I've ever seen one.
And particularly if it has an infection along with it. If
Oh,
it has
yeah.
an impurity or a mixed mark, some imperfection, it could be even more valuable.
Oh yeah, and they do tell you sometimes there are notices out or places where you can go to websites and look and see what the imperfections are on certain years. Some year coins, that year, the whole year may not be valuable, but the certain ones with the certain flaws on it are the ones that can be valuable. So you'll have to look it up. It is something that you have to take the time to look at, to invest the time to see if those things are valuable or not. So I'm hoping, you know, for our caller that called in today, that penny is worth some money.
Yeah, and here's one way that you can tell if the person that's appraising it is really legit. He's going to have a jeweler's loop. A jeweler's loop is that little eyeglass thing that you hold up to the eye when they're looking at a diamond or a coin. That's called a jeweler's loop. L-O-L-O-U-P-E, loop, jeweler's loop. If they have that glass and looking at something, then they're on the mark. during the ball.
Well, Dr. Glenn, you think that crooks couldn't have a jeweler's loop? To anybody that wants to try to trick somebody may have one of those.
You will use your purse that's in the criminal element. Don't even know what a jeweler's loop is.
Well, that's my first time. That's my first time hearing the name, but I have seen it on movies where they were up with the thing over their eye, looking at it.
Yeah, right. That's a jeweler's loop.
To see if something was real or not.
That's a jeweler's loop. LOUPE.
Yes. Yes. Well, Dr. Glenn, thank you for teaching us that name today, or that new word. My vocabulary has expanded. A jeweler's loop.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Glenn, we're winding down with our hour here, and again, we want to thank that caller again for calling and letting us and sharing with us on today. We also want to thank you for listening on today. Those of you that came and that took the time to listen to this broadcast. Next week, we're going to continue with this same subject and even expand it. Dr. Glenn said we may do 2 or 3 weeks, but I know at least next week we're going to expand on this same subject.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the penny, but about money.
About money. And I probably won't tell too many stories so we can keep the broadcast professional and get as much information out to you as possible. So that's what my intentions are, because there's a lot more. You talking about money, U.S. currency. There is a lot of things you can research on U.S. currency. Apostle, take us out to the closing.
Hey, we know that you've enjoyed our broadcast on today, and we know we've given you some interesting facts about money and some good, interesting stories for you to listen to on today. We want you to come back here next week, and we're going to have even greater, some more things to share with you. This is Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams, and I'm just saying God bless you, and we'll see you on next week. Dr. Glenn?
I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. As we have indicated, please tune in next week and perhaps the following week, because we have a wealth of information to bring to you about the current status of our U.S. currency. So God willing, you'll be able to join with us in calling. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.